Welcome to another episode of Auction Talk with Steffes Group. I'm Rusty Halverson, and in studio we've got Max Steffes, a third-generation auctioneer with a family business that began back in 1960. Max, welcome back to the studio once again.
Good morning, Rusty. Good to be back here for, I think this is our third or fourth time.
Yeah, fourth time, I believe. We've talked with Grandpa Bob. You and I have talked a little bit about trends and values and stuff like that. And today we're going to switch gears just a little bit and get into construction. And you've got a special guest in studio with you today, Max. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Rusty. Chris Gellner, Director of Construction with the Steffes Group. Been here for about 3 years now.
Okay.
And about 15 years in the industry.
Well, welcome to the studio, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Max, let's start off. Any first thoughts you want to get out there at the top of the show?
You know, we talk about doing more and more auctions further and further away, and part of that is different industries and different segments. And we've, of course, been in the business since 1960. Been doing construction auctions since that time, but really haven't focused on it. And Chris entered the fold here 3 years ago, and he's really taken that side of our business and has grown it aggressively. So we're excited about it. We're excited to be of service to those folks, and it is different from an asset standpoint, but fundamentally it's still an auction sale, and those truths that we talk about every day remain true.
Now, when you talk about it from an asset standpoint, do construction values, you and I have talked, Max, about the value that tractors have retained over the past few years. Chris, Max, when it comes to construction equipment, are we seeing the same trends when it comes to values?
Yeah, Rusty, for the most part, the values right now are staying real high because of the demand. Not a lot coming out from the OEMs right now. So used equipment, very, very, very hard to find. So values are holding very strong right now, and we see that continuing for a while.
Now, what kind of equipment are we talking about? Because construction is a big word. That can describe a lot of different things. What do you sell the most of? What do you see most often, do you think, Chris?
Well, a little bit of a loaded question because it's obviously a day-to-day thing. But
yeah.
In general, trucks, trailers, the transportation side, and then a lot of yellow iron, skid steers, loader backhoes, loaders, things like that, dozers as well. And then being from North Dakota, we obviously get to play in the oil and gas industry. So we are out in Williston and playing with some oil and gas equipment as well. So some very specialized stuff that's a little bit new to Steffes, but we're doing a real good job with it and enjoying it.
Well, when it comes to the oil patch out there in Williston and western North Dakota, do the values, the appetite for construction equipment and the willingness to buy, does that follow the ups and downs of the oil market and just the general feel of the industry? How does that kind of work? What have you seen in your history?
It's funny, Rusty, because we always seem to think in our own little worlds and where we live, but the construction assets are such they're so vast that they can go anywhere. So when you think of what's going on in the oil and gas industry, it really doesn't affect the price of a dozer, for instance, because it can go anywhere from a farmer utilizing it to a large contractor that's maybe in mines or something like that. So it's really more about the availability right now is what we're finding. When you get into the more specialized stuff, then that can really change based off of prices of oil and gas.
Now, I was curious about, when it comes to the oil patch and construction and maybe just builders and whatnot, does some of the used construction equipment go to new owner-operators that are getting their start, or are we kind of working among the big companies to kind of grab this equipment? Is that a good question?
Really, it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
There are, especially if we're talking in locally in the oil patch, there are some new people coming in with oil prices being high, and so we do find them out searching for some used equipment just because the availability to go to a dealership, it's not on the lot right now. So they are out searching. But for the most part, what we're finding is that people that were buying brand new equipment, they can't get it right now. So they're stepping down a tier and maybe buying that 1 and 2 year old stuff. And those buyers now have had to step down a tier to the 3 to 5 year old equipment and so on and so forth. So you're seeing there's a change in a mentality of what people are willing to purchase just because of the availability. So we're seeing it go all over the place.
Okay. Now,
and that's, Rusty, to Chris's point, that's almost by force.
Really?
There's a lot of auction goers that we've seen in the last 2 years that historically have been A, don't really like auctions, and B, have been really opposed to it because they don't fulfill the needs. And you talk about big farms and big contractors. They've historically gone to their Caterpillar dealer and they've taken care of them. Well, what's going on now is their Cat dealer and their John Deere dealer and their Case dealer is just saying, sorry, it's 6 months to a year. And 6 months to a year rolls around. Sorry, it's going to be another 6 months. And sorry, we told you 6 months to a year right away.
Yeah. And I think that's where when we talk about auctions, that's a need that is so needed right now because of everything that's going on. And Max, I'm sure you've seen that over the last 2 years.
Yeah, we've always been a right here, right now, cash today operation. And it seems like we know in the auction industry what's going on before, maybe a month or so before people write about it. And it's an immediate need that we're fulfilling when we sell something to someone. Typically, I would tell you, and Chris, you could interject, but when someone buys a dozer or a backhoe, I would tell you that they're going to put that asset to work within a month for certain, if not that day.
Yeah, it's kind of a I need it yesterday kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. Especially with the lack of availability right now, most people are searching, and it's within a week. I have to have it. I have to get it on a truck and get it to Boise, Idaho, or Louisiana, or wherever it's going for my next job, and get it to work right now. So the stuff is traveling all over North America is what we're really seeing. In fact, a couple of our sales over the last couple months, I think we've had 30 to 40 different countries that are searching and buying equipment and taking it all over the pond.
Really?
Yeah, it's been very, very interesting and very fun.
Do you think, we're not going to drag a whole lot of politics into this, but with the situation in Europe and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, used equipment, construction equipment, even maybe more value just because of things that are going on a big scale geopolitical? Would you agree with that, or am I reaching?
No, I would agree with that, and without getting too deep, that those things always affect markets and what's going on. Some of the things we get to touch, especially locally in the Dakotas and things like that, is we find a lot of older equipment that people have really taken very good care of. Mm-hmm. And when you start jumping across the pond, there's not a Cat dealer or a John Deere dealer on every corner. So a lot of those places can't utilize the new equipment. So they're looking for stuff that maybe doesn't have quite the technology, but is taken very, very well care of. And they will pay very big money for it, put it in a box and ship it across the pond to go take it to work wherever they need it to be.
Now, you worked a lot of years in Williston. And Max, I understand you've recently expanded your footprint just for Steffes Group into more areas. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, part of our growth is the need for facilities, and we've had full-time staff out in the Watford City, Williston area now for probably 3 years, but we haven't had a facility where we could hang our hat and, more importantly, have consigners and sellers park equipment. And we've taken a plunge. I'll maybe let Chris touch on that in terms of our plans in Williston with our new site.
Yeah, we actually just closed on the property, and we will break ground probably 2 to 3 weeks, just waiting on a couple permits to come through, and then we'll have a 40-acre facility out there, hopefully up and running. The goal is to be able to put equipment on it by October 1st and have an auction for the end of the year. So very, very exciting. We've been waiting a long time. So
okay, October 1st. That is just before the deer hunting season. You guys know about the mule deer out there, right?
I've heard of them.
Have you ever chased them?
Maybe once or twice.
Me too.
Yeah.
When it comes to construction equipment, big equipment, once the sale is final, getting that piece of equipment to the final destination, how does that work?
Well, Rusty, there's a few different ways to do it. It obviously matters geographically where it's going, but the reality is first and foremost, we got to collect the money.
Yeah.
Once that's done, it's all
Once
about
the check clears.
Once the check clears, it's all about getting it on the truck, and our customers really rely on us a lot for understanding heights and widths and weights and those types of things, especially on the larger assets. Mm-hmm. So they can make a game plan of where they have to get to. Road restrictions in the winter, height restrictions, width restrictions in the summer. With the roads being all tore up, things like that.
Yeah.
It definitely can be a lot for us, but we end up giving a lot of information to make sure they can get the thing where they need it.
There's a lot of logistics involved. I mean, it's not just, okay, it's yours now, go home. There's a lot of logistics.
A lot, and when logistics don't go correctly, you can imagine who gets the phone call.
Oh boy, probably Max.
You're right. Yeah, we sold this stuff 2 months ago. When's this guy going to come get this? You wouldn't believe what people leave laying around. It's remarkable. But we rely on our customers and our bidders to make arrangements prior to purchasing those items. And most of the time, they're thinking about that, and they have arrangements made prior to even making a bid. And that's what we prefer. A prepared bidder is typically a good bidder. They're going to bid more often because they've eliminated some uncertainty that was otherwise there. So,
that helps protect everybody in the process too.
Yeah,
exactly.
It really does.
Yeah. Now tell me about an expansion for the company in Colorado. What are you going on there?
Yeah, Rusty. So very, very exciting times for us. Been looking around the country at needs and what we see out there, and we knew that Denver was don't want to say emerging market because it's been there for a long time, but we definitely saw a need for what Steffes provides that's a little bit different from the industry standard, especially today. COVID really changed the way auctions happened with losing the live auction feel and all those types of things, and we feel that is just the heart and soul of what auction is, and we still want to provide that for the customers. So we were able to find a couple great guys, and we have a couple more on the horizon, and we are very close to signing a deal on leasing some land. Again, we're planning on having hopefully an auction sale there, maybe even a live auction sale come December.
Okay, now we've been talking construction equipment, we've been talking oil patch. What is that Denver and that Colorado market? What's the makeup of that market? What do you think is going to be the most trending items in that market?
The reality is in the construction world and the oil and gas world, it fits so well into what we're currently doing in our home base in North Dakota. But what a lot of people don't realize is that agriculturally, Colorado's got a lot going on.
They do have a lot going on,
and it butts right up to where we are. So the reality is trucks, trailers, iron, yellow iron. That's going to be probably the most predominant thing that we're going to be transacting immediately. But I would say that you will see very quickly a huge shift with the agriculture coming over to just from what our roots are and from what we've been doing for over 60 years.
So, Chris, for trends in construction equipment in the time we have left, what are you expecting for the rest of 2022 and maybe 23?
I think for the rest of 22, for sure, we're going to see very high values and very high demand because of the OEMs just not having anything on the lot. And I really think it's going to stretch in and probably through 23. We're not seeing a lot of changes happening right now, and there's price increases going on. So that is going to also increase the value of used. So I think we're going to have a pretty robust seller's market right now for the next 12 to 18 months. And then from there, your crystal ball's as clear as mine.
Making predictions is often hard, but you guys have the most knowledge about what you've been seeing, and obviously sometimes auctions predict what's going to happen in the market.
They sure do. And the reality is our job isn't to predict the market, it's to find the market, regardless of what that market is. So that's what we're best at.
All right. Well said. Chris Gellner, Max Steffes, thank you so much for your time on this episode of Auction Talk with Steffes Group.
Thanks, Rusty.
Thank you, Rusty. Appreciate it.